The Eagles drove up I-95 and handed the Giants a 48-22 beatdown, or in the words of head coach Brian Daboll, 48 to whatever it was. OConnor of the New York Post has an article trending on the site right now about the Giants not being ready to compete, and he's here now. And when we talk about the Giants being winless in the last four and then getting beat by a divisional opponent like that, fingers are going to be pointed on social media on who's to blame. So from a media standpoint, who gets to blame, and what were your biggest takeaways from yesterday's loss?
Well, I think, Brandon, everyone gets the blame. It was that kind of loss. But ultimately, the chief responsibility of a head coach is to have his team ready to compete. And I don't think Brian Daboll had his team ready to do that. And it was obvious in the results, the Eagles getting 3 touchdowns right out of the gate. And I understand they have the best record in the NFL, and they have superior talent across the board. There's no question about that. But Washington did find a way to beat this team. Washington, a divisional opponent, of course, not a great team. And so I thought the Giants at home in a big December divisional game just at least needed to compete. And I think the fans in that building expected, anticipated a heated, spirited battle, and they got the opposite of that. And I think the ultimate blame for that goes to the head coach.
But when you say a competitive, a heated battle with, you got guys, you're going up against guys like Jason Kelsey, A.J. Brown, and since in the locker room players, we say players over plays. It's just hard for players who are overmatched by a team at times. And then when we're talking about play calling, Coach Daboll and the staff, they've been so aggressive with the play calling and decision making towards the beginning of the season, but it looks like they've taken more of a conservative approach lately. A team's identity is tied to the head coach. So does Coach Daboll need to go back to being Brian Dabolls, as they used to call him at the beginning of the year?
I think so, if nothing else, to reaffirm his belief in this team. And I think that really by coaching the way he did, particularly against Washington, it sent a message to that team. And I think there's no margin for error with these Giants. There's no question about that. So I think that would make sense down the stretch to coach with reckless abandon if you want your players to play with reckless abandon. And really, there's nothing to lose other than, I guess, a playoff spot. Nobody expected the Giants to be in this position, but they do control their own playoff fate. There are winnable opportunities here down the stretch with Washington, with the Colts. And if the Eagles have nothing to play for in the end, that also is an opportunity for the Giants to maybe get into the playoffs by beating the Eagles' second and third stringers. So there is a chance here for the Giants to make all this right. But yesterday was completely unacceptable in any context.
Yeah.
And I think that the Giants, from the head coach down to the bottom of the roster, would admit that.
Absolutely. There was a press conference with Jahad Ward. Viewers, y'all should go check that out. And he kind of spoke to media, and he put it on the players. He was saying there's no more rookies anymore. It's December football. This team absolutely knows what's at stake for them, especially after starting 6-1. They're 1-4. They're 1-4-1 since, and now 0-3-1 in the division. You kind of answered this question a little bit, but is it time to hit the panic button, and do the Giants make the playoffs?
I'm going to say yes, Brandon. And listen, they're banged up. You played professional football. You know that everyone is banged up this time of year. So it's a lot to ask for a team that doesn't have a lot of talent. But again, there are chances here to win games. I think they'll need to win 2 or 3 of them to do it, to get in. And hit the panic button for a team that wasn't supposed to be here. I don't know about that, but they should feel like this is an opportunity they shouldn't squander. They got off to a great start, 6-1, 7-2. Nobody thought that would happen, but it did. And in a sense, they're a victim of their own overachieving earlier in the season. But you don't want to give away opportunities. It's right there for the Giants to seize. And I think they can. And because I feel for Giants fans who've been through a lot in recent years, I'll go ahead and say they will.
Yeah, Coach Daboll said after the loss to the Cowboys, said to his team, the season starts now. Or after the loss to the Eagles, the playoffs start now. And they'll have a chance to beat the Commanders in prime time on Sunday. Ian, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brandon.